Welcome to HFY Codex Archives. Welcome to HFY Codex Archives. Before we dive into today's incredible story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing HFY stories. The prisoner awakens. Marcus Webb opened his eyes to darkness and the smell of burning metal. His head throbbed with a dull ache that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The cold floor beneath him vibrated slightly, and he could hear the distant hum of engines that told him he was aboard a ship. But this wasn't any human vessel. The air tasted wrong, filled with chemicals his body didn't recognize. As his vision adjusted to the dim red lighting, Marcus tried to remember how he'd gotten here. The memories came back in painful flashes. The surprise attack on Outpost Darwin. Explosions tearing through the research station where he'd been working as a data analyst. Screaming colonists running for the escape pods. And then the Zythron warriors, towering 8-foot creatures with 4 arms and faces like nightmare insects, swarming through the corridors with weapons that fired purple energy bolts. Marcus had tried to reach the evacuation shuttles with a group of other civilians. But a beam had collapsed, blocking their path. When the Zythron found them, there had been no mercy. Just cold efficiency as they stunned everyone and dragged them aboard their ships. That had been 3 days ago, according to the timer on his wrist computer. 3 days of being held in a cramped cell with 20 other terrified humans while the Zythron ship traveled through hyperspace to an unknown destination. Now Marcus was alone in a different cell, and the silence was almost worse than the crying and prayers of his fellow prisoners had been. The arena awaits. The cell door suddenly hissed open, and 2 Zythron guards entered. Their exoskeletons gleamed like polished obsidian under the red lights, and their compound eyes reflected Marcus's scared face 100 times over. They grabbed him with rough efficiency, their 4 arms making resistance pointless. Marcus didn't even try to fight as they dragged him through winding corridors filled with alien writing and strange technology. Other prisoners watched from behind force field barriers as he passed, their faces showing the same terror he felt in his gut. Finally, they reached a massive chamber that took Marcus's breath away. It was an arena, easily 500 feet across, with thousands of seats rising up in tiers around a central platform. But those seats weren't empty. They were filled with aliens of every description imaginable, all watching and waiting. A massive view screen dominated one wall, showing Marcus's face in close-up. He realized with a sick feeling that this was being broadcast. The guards shoved Marcus toward a raised platform in the center of the arena where 3 Zythron stood. These were different from the soldiers. Their exoskeletons bore intricate markings, and they wore what looked like ceremonial armor. The largest one stepped forward, and when it spoke, a translation device rendered its clicking, buzzing language into English. Human Marcus Webb. You have been selected for the honor of entering the Gauntlet of Judgment. This is the highest form of justice in the Zythron Collective. You will face challenges that test your mind, body, and spirit. Should you survive, you will be granted freedom. Should you fail, your death will bring glory to the collective and entertainment to billions. The impossible recognition. Another Zythron approached, holding what looked like a data tablet. Before you enter, prey creature, you may review the basic structure of the gauntlet. It is only fair that you understand what awaits you. The tablet was thrust into Marcus's shaking hands. He stared at the glowing screen, expecting to see something completely alien and incomprehensible. What he saw instead made his heart stop. The layout was familiar. Impossibly, incredibly familiar. The entry corridor with pressure plates in a specific pattern. The rotating blade section with the safe zones marked in blue. The vertical shaft with moving platforms over a pit. The laser grid room with mirrors. The collapsing bridge sequence. The memory maze with color-coded paths. Marcus's hand stopped shaking as a strange calm washed over him. This wasn't just similar to something he knew. It was identical. This was Demon's Labyrinth, level 47, Nightmare Mode. He had speedrun this exact level over 3,000 times. Marcus had been more than just a data analyst before the war. He'd been a professional gamer, ranked number 3 globally in Demon's Labyrinth speedruns. The game had been his life for 5 years, with sponsors and tournament prizes paying his bills while he chased world records. His personal best for level 47 was 8 minutes and 32 seconds. The current world record was 8 minutes and 19 seconds, held by a player called Ghost Runner who Marcus had competed against dozens of times. But how was this possible? Demon's Labyrinth was a human game, created by a small development studio on Mars only 6 years ago. The Zythron Collective had been at war with humanity for barely 2 years. How could their ancient trial maze be identical to a video game level? The deadly statistics. The lead Zythron judge seemed to take Marcus's silence for fear. The gauntlet has been used by our civilization for 300 cycles. 847 prisoners have entered. 847 have died. The average survival time is 14 minutes. The longest any being has lasted is 41 minutes, achieved by a Krogan warrior whose species is known for their resilience. You, human, are small and weak. We estimate you will survive perhaps 5 minutes. But your struggle will be watched by over 30 billion viewers across the galaxy. Your death will have meaning. Marcus looked up at the towering alien judge. For the first time since his capture, he felt something other than fear. He felt the cold focus that always came over him when he was about to attempt a speedrun. The state of mind where every movement was calculated, every possibility mapped out, every second accounted for. When do I start? Marcus asked, his voice steady. The judges seemed surprised by his calmness. The lead Zythron's mandibles clicked rapidly. Immediately. The gauntlet awaits. May your death be swift, human. The guards pushed Marcus toward a massive door marked with glowing symbols. Beyond it, he could hear mechanical sounds, the whir of motors and the hiss of hydraulics. The gauntlet was activating, preparing to kill him like it had killed 847 others. But those 847 others hadn't spent 5 years mastering every trap, memorizing every pattern, discovering every exploit and shortcut in this exact maze. Marcus cracked his knuckles, a habit from his gaming days. The door began to open. Entering the maze. The first chamber was exactly as Marcus remembered from the game. A long rectangular room with a floor divided into colored sections, red, blue, yellow, and green. Pressure plates were hidden beneath certain tiles, and stepping on the wrong ones would trigger the wall-mounted flame jets and blade traps he could see waiting around the room's perimeter. In the game, new players would panic and try to run randomly, triggering traps and dying within seconds. The correct path required stepping only on green tiles in a specific sequence that spelled out the word Nexus if viewed from above. Behind Marcus, the door slammed shut with finality. Above him, cameras tracked his every movement, broadcasting to billions of alien viewers who expected to see him die screaming within minutes. A timer appeared on the view screen, starting to count upward from 0. A synthesized voice echoed through the chamber, Level 1, Chromatic Pressure Maze. Begin. Marcus didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, his feet finding the first green tile with practiced precision. Behind him, flame jets erupted where he'd been standing a second before. He jumped to the next green tile, then the next, building momentum. His body moved on pure muscle memory from thousands of practice runs. Left, forward, forward, right, forward. The pattern was burned into his brain. Automated turrets descended from the ceiling, their targeting lasers sweeping across the room. Marcus knew their firing pattern intimately. 3 seconds to lock on, 2 seconds between shots, blind spots at every junction. He zigzagged through the safe zones, moving faster than the turrets could track. Energy bolts scorched the floor behind him, missing by inches. The final section approached, the blue tiles forming the Nexus pattern. Marcus ran straight down the middle, hitting each tile in perfect sequence. Behind him, the entire first section of floor collapsed into darkness, revealing a pit filled with spikes. First blood. He reached the exit door with 11 seconds on the timer. In his best game speedruns, he'd cleared this room in 10 seconds. Not bad for his first real-world attempt. The door opened automatically, and Marcus kept moving without breaking stride. He knew what came next. Level 2 appeared before him, the rotating blade corridor. In the game, this section was nicknamed the meat grinder by players. Dozens of massive circular blades emerged from slots in the walls, spinning at incredible speeds and creating a complex pattern of death that required split-second timing to navigate. Marcus could hear confused chattering from the speakers built into the walls. The Zythron commentators broadcasting this execution were clearly surprised he'd survived the first room. Good. Let them be confused. He was just getting started. He watched the blades for exactly 3 rotations, establishing their pattern in his mind. Then he moved. Duck, roll, sprint, jump, slide. His body flowed through the deadly corridor like water, each movement precise and economical. Halfway through, Marcus executed his signature technique, a trick he'd discovered during his speedrunning days. Instead of waiting for a safe gap, he jumped and grabbed onto one of the blades as it retracted into the wall, rode it through its rotation cycle, and used the momentum to launch himself over the next 3 obstacles. The maneuver saved 4 precious seconds and had been Marcus's trademark move in tournaments. The alien commentators' voices rose in pitch and volume. They'd never seen anyone move like this. Marcus emerged from the blade corridor after 28 seconds total elapsed time. Level 2 complete. Impossible speed. Level 3 was the Ascending Inferno, a vertical shaft where platforms rose from pools of burning liquid while fire jets created moving walls of flame. This level had killed more players in the game than any other section, and Marcus had died here hundreds of times while learning its secrets. But he'd also discovered that this level had the most exploits, ways to skip entire sections if you knew exactly where to jump and when. He leaped onto the first rising platform, immediately jumping to the second before the flames could catch him. Up, up, always up. He knew which platforms were stable and which would collapse. He knew the exact timing of every fire jet. Most importantly, he knew about the thermal updraft trick. A massive explosion of flame erupted to his right, superheating the air. Marcus jumped directly into the updraft, using the rising heated air to boost his jump height and reach a platform that should have been impossible to access. This shortcut bypassed the most dangerous section of Level 3 entirely. He grabbed the exit ledge and pulled himself up, rolling through the doorway as the entire shaft behind him erupted in a coordinated fire blast. 41 seconds total elapsed time. The commentators were no longer just surprised. They were shouting over each other in multiple alien languages, their voices carrying shock and disbelief. Through the speakers, Marcus could hear what sounded like cheering from the audience. They were reacting to his performance like it was a sporting event, not an execution. Level 4 awaited, the laser grid room. This was where Marcus had spent months perfecting his technique, discovering that the intended solution of carefully positioning 17 mirrors was far slower than his method of weaponizing the mirrors themselves. He burst into the chamber and immediately started grabbing mirrors, throwing them with calculated precision at the laser emitters. Each mirror hit its target perfectly, destroying emitters and causing the entire grid pattern to shift and collapse. Mirror after mirror flew through the air as Marcus ran through what should have been instant death. His throws were perfect, every angle calculated from thousands of practice runs. The final mirror took out the master control node, and every laser in the room shut down simultaneously. Marcus walked through the now safe chamber toward the exit. 56 seconds total elapsed time. Through the speakers, one of the alien commentators was speaking in a trembling voice. The translator device rendered it as, "This is impossible." The human moves as if he knows every trap before it activates. As if he has run this maze 1,000 times before. The truth emerges. Marcus allowed himself a small smile as he approached level 5. If only they knew. He had run this maze thousands of times. Just not in the way they thought. The revelation was beginning to spread through the alien audience. Confusion was giving way to something else, fear. What kind of species could train individuals to master a death maze as complex as the gauntlet? What kind of culture would create such training? Level 5 was the rising floor room, where platforms elevated and descended randomly, creating a constantly changing landscape of crushing death. In the game, players had to ride the platforms and time their jumps perfectly. But Marcus knew about the wall exploit. He ran to the left wall and jumped, grabbing onto a decorative fixture that wasn't supposed to be functional but could actually support weight. He swung from fixture to fixture along the wall, completely bypassing the deadly platforms below. The cameras struggled to follow him, not programmed to expect anyone to take this route. He reached the far wall, dropped to a specific platform he knew would be in position, and ran through the exit door. 1 minute and 7 seconds total elapsed time. Marcus was ahead of his personal best game speedrun pace. 4 levels remained, and he was just getting warmed up. The alien audience was going wild now, their cheers and shocked exclamations echoing through the arena. They had come to watch a human die. Instead, they were witnessing something they'd never seen before: complete mastery of the impossible. Part 2, Breaking the Legend. The impossible continues. Level 6 appeared before Marcus, the collapsing bridge. A long pathway that disintegrated behind the runner, combined with massive hammers that swung down from above at precise intervals. Marcus had run this section so many times that he could do it with his eyes closed. He sprinted at full speed, his feet barely touching each section before it crumbled away. The hammers swung down with crushing force, but Marcus accelerated and decelerated in a rhythm that made them all miss by fractions of a second. Near the end of the bridge was a gap that was technically too far to jump. The intended solution was to use a grappling mechanism hidden in the ceiling. But Marcus knew that if you hit the last stable platform at exactly the right angle and speed, you could make the jump anyway. He planted his foot on the platform's edge and launched himself into the air. For a heart-stopping moment, he was airborne over a 300-foot drop to jagged spikes below. The cameras captured it all, broadcasting his leap to billions of viewers. His fingers caught the far ledge. He pulled himself up and rolled through to level 7 without looking back. 1 minute and 25 seconds total elapsed time. The alien commentators had given up trying to maintain professional composure. They were screaming, their voices overlapping in a dozen languages. Through the chaos, Marcus heard fragments of translation, never seen anything like. Moves like he built the maze himself. What is this human? Impossible, impossible, impossible. The rotating death tunnel. Level 7 was the rotating death tunnel, a cylindrical corridor that spun rapidly while blades, spikes, and flame jets protruded from the walls in deadly patterns. In the game, speedrunners had discovered that you could run along the wall perpendicular to gravity, using the centrifugal force to stay pinned to the surface. Marcus entered the tunnel and immediately started running along the wall with the rotation. His body instinctively knew when to jump over a blade, when to duck under a spike, when to leap across a gap that erupted with flame. This was poetry in motion, the culmination of 5 years of dedicated practice. Every obstacle he passed had killed him dozens of times during his learning process. But all those deaths had meaning now. All those hours of practice were saving his life. He emerged from the tunnel after 1 minute and 49 seconds total elapsed time. 2 levels remained. Throughout the arena, the alien audience was on their feet. Some were cheering, others were stunned into silence. The Zythron judges who had sentenced Marcus to death were conferring urgently with each other, their mandibles clicking rapidly. This wasn't supposed to happen. Nobody survived the gauntlet. Nobody. Level 8 appeared, the memory maze, a series of corridors where the correct path changed every 30 seconds. The player had to memorize the pattern by watching for clues in the wall colors and floor markings, then navigate before the pattern reset. Marcus stood at the entrance and watched carefully. The walls cycled through their color sequence: red, blue, yellow, green. The floor markings shifted into position. He had 30 seconds to memorize, 30 seconds to execute. Perfect execution. He saw the pattern. It was identical to the game. Left corridor, third right, second left, straight through the false wall, up the hidden ramp, across the bridge that would only appear for 5 seconds. The timer hit 30 seconds. The pattern locked in. Marcus moved like lightning. He ran through the maze without hesitation, his feet finding the correct path as if guided by GPS. Every turn was perfect, every decision instant. He hit the false wall at full speed, and it shattered around him like glass. The hidden ramp appeared under his feet. He sprinted up it. The bridge materialized, and he was already crossing it, reaching the far side just as it began to dissolve. Exit door ahead. Marcus ran through it. 2 minutes and 15 seconds total elapsed time. One level remained, the final boss room. Throughout the arena, the alien audience had gone from bloodthirsty entertainment seekers to invested spectators cheering for Marcus to succeed. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching, and the impossible was happening before their eyes. The massive door to the final chamber slowly opened, revealing a circular arena 500 feet in diameter. The walls were lined with every type of weapon system, trap mechanism, and death device from all the previous levels combined. In the center, rising on a pedestal, was a simple button marked with a symbol that meant completion or exit or freedom, depending on which species was reading it. The final challenge. Marcus knew what would happen the moment he stepped into that arena. Every trap would activate simultaneously, creating an overwhelming barrage designed to make victory impossible. In the game, his strategy had been to exploit gaps in the activation sequence, moving through safe zones with split-second timing. But there was one problem. The real-world version might not have the same tiny gap in the flame jet sequence that his strategy depended on. If the timing was even slightly different, he would burn to death halfway across the arena. Marcus took a deep breath. This was it. After this, he was either free or dead. He stepped into the arena, and hell erupted around him. Every turret, every blade, every flame jet, every trap activated at once. The noise was deafening, a symphony of mechanical death. Energy bolts filled the air like rain. Flames created walls of heat. Blades descended from every angle. Marcus ran along the eastern wall, exactly as planned. The strategy was working. He reached the third pillar and ducked behind it just as a concentrated barrage of fire converged on his position. The pillar absorbed the hits, its surface cracking but holding. Marcus counted in his head. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now. He sprinted across the center of the arena during the gap he knew existed in the flame jet sequence. But the gap was shorter in reality than in the game. 3 seconds instead of 4. The flames activated early. Fire engulfed Marcus's left side. His clothes caught fire. Pain exploded through his nerves, bright and terrible. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, to drop and roll, to put out the flames. But stopping meant death. The turrets were already tracking him. Blades were descending. The final sprint. Marcus kept running, flames trailing from his burning clothes. The button was ahead, rising on its pedestal. 20 feet, 15, 10. A massive blade came down directly in his path, too fast to avoid. Marcus made a split-second decision. He dropped into a slide, his momentum carrying him under the blade with inches to spare. The slide was faster than running the last few feet, and it made him a smaller target for the turrets. He reached the pedestal. His burned hand slammed down on the button. Everything stopped. The flames cut off instantly. The blades retracted. The turrets powered down. An eerie silence fell over the arena, broken only by the sound of Marcus's ragged breathing and the crackle of his smoldering clothes. He rolled on the ground, putting out the last of the flames. His left side was burned, but not critically. He would live. The view screen flickered, displaying his final time, 3 minutes and 38 seconds. For a moment, there was absolute silence from the arena. Then an explosion of noise. Alien species who had never made sounds together in harmony were all cheering, roaring, celebrating. The Zythron commentators were beside themselves, speaking so rapidly their translator devices couldn't keep up. Marcus pushed himself to his feet, wincing at the pain from his burns. He looked directly at the nearest camera and spoke clearly, "I speedrun this maze for fun back home. My personal best in the game was 8 minutes and 32 seconds. I was going easy on you." The silence that followed was absolute. Marcus had just revealed that what the Zythron considered their ultimate test of survival, their ancient trial that had killed 847 prisoners, was a human video game. The implications rippled through the broadcast faster than light. The galaxy learns fear. The massive door to the arena opened. The Zythron judges who had sentenced Marcus to death stood there, their body language expressing something between confusion and terror. The lead judge approached slowly, as if Marcus were a dangerous predator. "You claim this gauntlet is a human game," it said, its translator barely able to render the disbelief in its voice. Marcus nodded, still catching his breath. Demon's Labyrinth, Level 47, Nightmare Mode. Developed by Nexus Games 6 years ago. I was ranked number 3 globally in speedruns. You can check the leaderboards if you don't believe me. There are at least 50 humans with faster times than I just did. The judge's mandibles clicked frantically. But the gauntlet has been our trial for 300 cycles. We did not copy it from humans. This is impossible. Marcus shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at his burns. Then either you copied it without knowing, someone sold you the design, or it's the weirdest coincidence in galactic history. Either way, I grew up playing this maze. Every trap, every pattern, every shortcut. I probably know it better than whoever built this thing. Another judge stepped forward, this one wearing insignia suggesting very high rank. If what you say is true, we must verify it. We will access human networks and examine this supposed game. Be my guest, Marcus said. You'll find gameplay videos, speedrun competitions, strategy guides, and entire online communities dedicated to optimizing every second. There are probably thousands of humans who know this maze as well as I do. The truth revealed. Over the next hour, as medics treated Marcus's burns, the truth spread through the galactic network like wildfire. The Gauntlet of Judgment was indeed identical to Demon's Labyrinth, Level 47, Nightmare Mode. Access to human networks confirmed everything Marcus had said. The game existed. The speedrunning community existed. Marcus's ranking existed. More shockingly, there were indeed 50 humans with faster completion times than Marcus's real-world run. The current world record holder, Ghost Runner, had uploaded a verified speedrun of 8 minutes and 19 seconds. The implications were staggering. The Zythron Collective had built their entire justice system around a trial that humans had turned into casual entertainment. What they considered an impossible test of survival, humans considered a fun challenge to optimize. The galactic community was forced to re-evaluate everything they thought they knew about humanity. A species that trained its people on death mazes for fun was not a species to be underestimated. The broadcast of Marcus's run was being analyzed by military strategists across dozens of civilizations. His pattern recognition, spatial awareness, split-second decision-making, and ability to function under extreme pressure had all been honed by thousands of hours of gaming. What other skills were humans developing through their strange entertainment? A Zythron official in diplomatic robes entered the medical bay where Marcus was being treated. Human Marcus Webb, on behalf of the Zythron Collective, I must fulfill our promise. You survived the gauntlet. You have earned your freedom and safe passage to human space. Marcus nodded. Good. I'd like to leave as soon as possible. A new reputation. The official's mandibles twitched nervously. Of course. However, before you go, I am authorized to extend an offer. The collective would like to engage you as a consultant to understand how this situation occurred and prevent future embarrassment. We would compensate you generously. Marcus considered this. Part of him wanted nothing to do with the aliens who had sentenced him to death. But another part, the competitive gamer part, was curious about how the gauntlet had come to match his favorite game. I'll consult on one condition. You release all the other human prisoners you're holding. All of them, immediately. The official was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. This can be arranged. This incident has demonstrated that we severely underestimated your species. Over the following days, as Marcus worked with Zythron researchers to unravel the mystery, the investigation revealed something incredible. 30 years earlier, long before first contact with humanity, a Zythron exploration ship had encountered a derelict alien vessel of unknown origin. Aboard that vessel, they'd found data files containing plans for various structures, including what became the Gauntlet. The Zythron had assumed these were ancient designs from a long-dead civilization. They'd built the Gauntlet based on those schematics, never knowing the true origin. Meanwhile, on Earth, investigators traced the history of Demon's Labyrinth. The game's lead designer had based the level layouts on dreams and visions she'd experienced since childhood. She'd always thought they were products of her imagination. The time loop. The truth was stranger than anyone expected. The data files the Zythron found had come from a ship that had encountered a temporal anomaly. The schematics were based on the video game that wouldn't be created until decades later. Cause and effect had looped back on themselves. The game inspired the maze. The maze inspired the game. Which came first? Both and neither. It was a paradox that no one could fully explain. But for humanity, the explanation mattered less than the result. The galaxy now knew that humans were capable of extraordinary feats. They'd demonstrated abilities that exceeded what other species considered possible. The Zythron Collective released all human prisoners and opened formal diplomatic channels with Earth's government. Other species took notice. Marcus became a celebrity. His speedrun through the Gauntlet was analyzed by military academies, studied by scientists, and watched by entertainment audiences across dozens of worlds. Humanity was no longer seen as a minor player in galactic affairs. They were a species with unexpected depths and frightening capabilities. 3 months later, Marcus stood on a stage at the first Galactic Gaming Convention. Representatives from 12 species had gathered to learn about human gaming culture. Marcus looked out at the audience and smiled. "I'm going to show you something special," he announced. "I'm going to beat the current world record." Behind him, a holographic display showed Demon's Labyrinth loaded and ready. Marcus picked up a controller and began to play. The new world record. The alien audience watched in silence as Marcus tore through the levels with inhuman precision. Every movement was perfect, every trick executed flawlessly. He'd learned things from his real-world run, discovered new optimizations. Level 1 in 9 seconds. Level 2 in 14 seconds. Level 3 in 17 seconds. He was ahead of world record pace and accelerating. The aliens didn't fully understand the mechanics, but they understood excellence. They understood mastery. They understood that this human was doing something extraordinary. Marcus reached the final chamber at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, 10 seconds ahead of world record pace. His hands moved in a blur, guiding his avatar through the lethal arena with absolute precision. He hit the button at 8 minutes and 4 seconds. New world record. The audience erupted in cheering. Not just humans, but aliens from across the galaxy, celebrating an achievement in a game they'd barely understood 3 months ago. Marcus set down the controller. "This is what humans do," he said. "We take challenges and we master them. We optimize, we improve, we compete. We turn impossibility into entertainment. And we never give up." The applause continued for minutes. The galaxy had learned something important about humanity that day. They'd learned that humans prepared for the impossible by making it routine. Most importantly, they'd learned that underestimating humanity was a mistake they couldn't afford to make. Legacy of the Gamer. Years later, the incident at the Gauntlet had become a turning point in galactic history. The Zythron Collective became one of humanity's strongest allies, learning from human innovation and training methods. They even started hosting their own gaming competitions. Marcus eventually became an ambassador, teaching other species about human approaches to problem-solving and competitive excellence. The gauntlet itself was repurposed as a training facility where members of various species could test themselves safely. Human players still dominated the leaderboards, but other species were learning. Standing in his office at the Human Zythron Cultural Exchange Center, Marcus often thought about that day. Years of playing video games had turned out to be vital survival training. He'd shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of, and opened doors for his entire species. The story of the human who speedran the death maze became legend across the galaxy. And the message was always the same: never underestimate humanity. Never assume they cannot do something. Because somewhere, somehow, they've probably already turned it into a game, and they've gotten very, very good at playing it.